Hello, this is XE. Just setting everything up to go, to be honest. Alright, cool. Yeah, just a few of my random thoughts, might as well. Some have a little drive. Very interesting. Just disconnected from the internet, even though I'm miles down the road. I've heard about this before, actually. Is that people can pick up internet signals they shouldn't be able to, and that was something that was a concern with, like, not a major concern, but things like, you know, they've got this idea of Planet X coming in. How do you prove that? Well, you can only prove it by what you can notice yourself. So, okay, we've got lots of bizarre weather and stuff data you can look into. That at least proves that there's some solar changes. And you know, if you're feeling effects directly yourself, for myself, it's like a cyclist. It's nice and respectful. Don't freak him out. There we go. And yeah, basically, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've got high blood pressure, but I keep picking up things in my ears. It's like this weird sort of pounding. Or pulsing would be correct, and it's usually certain times of the day. It's not always there, and I've checked. It doesn't fall in line with my heartbeat or anything like that. There are internal pulses. I mean, there are pulses on the body. There probably is two assurance, two in the head. There's you can feel the pulse in the neck, maybe the temples, maybe a location in the temples. I think you can feel it on the nose. So yeah, it's likely some pulse parts that are actually in the brain, and that's just to help the blood pressure flow through, really. So yeah, that's something I noticed. It's that I notice in the morning, or early morning, and wake up, sometimes in the evening, at night, and just hear this sort of like, not like a didgeridoo. The didgeridoo's going off in my ears. But I think it's to do with the sun. It's usually I check against anything that's going on with the sun type weather, and there's usually they say there's a coronal hole, or feeling a hole, possibly just to actually it's the reverse. It's not the electric, it's a massive magnetic pulse that's there. So it's like the inner shell of it, basically. And I was also talking about other electrical problems that people may encounter as well, that I thought was sort of interesting. I've got a device which I'll touch upon in a sec. It's a Spooky 2, and this is basically this rifle machine. It basically sends signals into your DNA in a remote mode, or you can have these devices you clip on. It sends frequencies, basically. The body uses frequencies, DNA speaks to each other using frequencies. There's harmonics in the universe, all that kind of stuff. Everything that resonates at a certain frequency connects to things. And then there was the theories that healthy frequencies, unhealthy frequencies. So it's not miles away. I mean, basically, it's a bit like if you understand music and colour can heal people. If it matches what they actually need, then you understand that basically these principles are actually universal and they're real. So I had this machine, and I had basically, it was disconnected. It's disconnected, and I've got this. It's got like magnets on this device, and it basically uses quantum entanglement. So if I put a sample of my DNA there, it blasts out of energy, and as a result, that energy comes across to me because it's from me. So that's basically with the time continuum and that idea of that everything has some sort of separation, and and it doesn't have this kind of like it's a sort of binary type of universal connection. There is an actual thing I'm looking for in my brain, but it's not really coming to the surface. I think it's because people think it's got as a lineal type of way, it just goes forwards and backwards, you know, that kind of idea, when actually there's all these other dimensions off to the side, so it just could go anywhere in the multi-dimension. But however, the perception is that thing's ever been separated from me. So just because I cut a bit of my hair off or cut my nail, it's always been a part of me. It connects to me as a kind of like branch, and at some point in time we were both unified, or it was created within inside me. So when you use something like quantum type energies, they don't have to adhere to the physical laws of dense matter. Now dense matter may have cycles and basically become the layers and building blocks of reality, but with something where it's in a pure dimensional energy frequency, it doesn't have to have any limitations of where it goes. So it's not held by barriers of time or space, and therefore it can basically go back in time and forward in time as perceived, but actually all that exists is the present, and everything else is a construct of what could be. So anyway, that's something to just challenge something through there. So it's quite interesting using things like that. It's a bit like now I'm driving. I mean, I've got some entity that's driving the car. I've got me piloting the conversation partially, and then I've got another group of different types of ancestral souls and all sorts of things attached to me, that things I don't even not even fully aware of, but I know they're there because they sometimes let me know they're there. So yeah, so basically I've got this device. That's what it does normally. It's unplugged. It's not plugged into the mains, anything. And it started to, because what happens is, because it sends the pulse through these magnets, they tend to make a little bit of a chime sort of noise and make some sort of, well, basically it's noticeable. It can be quite strange, like you know, sort of high pitched type noise. That's my impression. It sounds a bit like a mouse, but yeah, but weirdly they've been going off on their own. So I've had this thing where they've been going off. I know I've got lots of things in my flat, like I've got, well, apart from just normal clutter, I've also got loads of orgone pyramids I was experimenting with. So I've got about 9 of these large orgone pyramids. I've also got small devices that are orgone as well. I've got ormus, I've got bottles of ormus, I've got some ormus that I've made elixirs with, and I've added to herbs and spices and whatever else I wanted to sort of healing things, and they're in my fridge freezer, and that seems to, my fridge is making weird noises, so it's probably entities interested in that or connected to that. And when we say entities, they're not necessarily, you know, let's not think of necessarily the Christian way that these things are all evil and everything else. They're actually usually attracted to your sort of frequency or space. It's just that these having other things that generate energy around you can also draw them in, as long as there's nothing negative. Like if you put all your negative experiences into something, into a vessel, then that could possibly attract something that would want pain and suffering. You know, like if I made something out of some animal that was suffering, you know, if you use any kind of animal type parts or whatever in it, best to ask the animal if you can use it, and that's kind of meditation. A bit like I used a crow in some of my experiments, because crow's got a spiritual creature. I was thinking about using it, and something happened where this creature had died. And whether it had given up its soul or something had happened, but it died, and it died on my route, and I was visiting somebody at the time. And so I said to this bloke, you know, this may sound creepy, but I wouldn't mind that actual crow. And he said, yeah, sure. And I was so surprised that he actually collected the crow for me and bagged it up, and so I had to process it. It was a bit grim. Well, it wasn't really grim because it's just like a chicken with a load of feathers on it. So I processed the feathers, and I used it in this rifle machine. So the family group of crows would have benefited from having their third eye opened up, which should be quite interesting. And made all these crows spiritual, whether they like it or not, or they start dreaming of being a human being because they've had a quantum entanglement with my DNA. And things like that. So yeah, so there's a spiritual attachment, and what this being, basically this crow's become, it's like a guide, like an animal guide. So I could summon it up, and it could find out information for me, or connect spiritually to things. So it's kind of operating in that frequency. That's one of its lives. I don't know if it's actually been reborn to something else. So yeah, that's part of something that's going on. There's also what the most important bit is that I mentioned that the thing started ringing on its own, and that started being freaking. I wonder if that's to do with this Nibiru, and then it's just other electronic devices that have activity of some sort, and it could be also to do with these things that draw them in, like laws, these energy devices that benefit me. So it's also important if you've got orgone pyramids that if you hold them in your hands, you can draw off the energy. Otherwise, it might build up into a kind of vat, and so it might discharge a big bolt. And I had something where I was either hit by a ray type weapon, or the orgone pyramid under my bed had shot a bolt of energy, and basically it left me in a kind of a paralysed state for about a few seconds. I just had to sort of fight it off, basically. And the other project I've got, I'm getting some Moldavite, and that's an alien type rock that's come down, or oh, that's very nice of this car. And so I'm going to induce that into the rifle machine, and as the rifle machine is connected to DNA and everything in quantum entanglement, it's going to end up quantum entangling with all the with all the Moldavite and all this energy source, so it could be unlimited. So I might put some hair samples into this device, Moldavite, and then blast it to frequency, see what happens. It might be pretty awesome. Anyway, this is our Pixie signing out, and have a great one.